the recording. Everybody can hear me okay, right? Inshallah. I forgot to ask that. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi sallam. Allahumma la sahla illa ma ja'altahu sahla wa anta taj'alu al-hazana idha shi'ta sahla. So, I want to take any questions. If you guys have any questions, if you're here, I'll take those. Otherwise, I have some. Actually, couldn't find the text of the questions, but inshallah, I'll remember them, where those questions are. So if there is any questions, I'll take from the floor. I think I found them. Okay. Alhamdulillah. All right, so if there's no questions, I'll go through these questions that I had previously. So where did they go? I think I just lost them again. Where did my questions go? All right, give me a minute. Okay, here it is. Okay, bismillah. So these were just some questions I had after a class, but you know what? I want to.
Model itself is really simple.
I'm going to Chantel. I'm so glad you're here. So okay, I have a question here. I'm not sure if this is related, but what do you do when all the trials in your life come at once and you're trying to manage them? Health, family, financial, spiritual, prioritize. Those things that you must do, take care of those things that you must do, and seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Get support. You have support. You sometimes we don't realize how much support we have, or how many resources we have. It's very important to just take a step back and recognize, like, with all the problems we have in our lives, there's resources we have to remember the resources, and it's very important. This is one thing. Remember when this one coach, she did an exercise with, in terms of, she and I encourage you to do this yourself, and if you can do it, you can do it right now. Like, what you make a circle, you draw a circle, and around it draw a dot for each problem that you're having. And then after that, you draw another circle and draw people, for example, who love you, who who can support you, who can help you. Draw another circle about people, like friends or teachers that you can reach out to. Draw another circle for, just resources in the community, even like helplines or things like that. When you draw those circles, you realize you have so much to conquer these issues that you have, but we don't realize them. So, I would say prioritize. When you have issues, you prioritize, and it does mean that you need to know your priority, right? But you prioritize, and then you just focus on those things that are most important, and just let go of the things that are like extra, and just try to work with that. One thing that on that note, I actually wanted to mention that today. I always get these like ideas. I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't think women know this. And what I wanted to mention was, You know, when it comes to our families, especially people who are, for women who are married, when they have in-laws, do you know your, I don't know how I want to say this first, but do you know that your mother, your own mother, and your own father, and your own brothers, your own family, that they are more important Islamically? Like, who are you going to, the ties of kinship, your uncle, your aunts, your father's sisters, your mother's, your mother's brothers and sisters, your father's mothers, your grandparents, they are more important for you to keep in touch with and have a relationship with than your in-laws. Do you know that? And how many women practice that? And I was just thinking about that. I was like, the way that the culture just forces us after we get married, it's almost like we're divorced from our families. We need to cut that off. This is like what I call revival. That's why it's a renewal. It's a renewal of revival of the sunnah. It's a renewal of the old. It's a renewal of the gold. It's really a renewal of what was beautiful. What was the most important? It was the renewal of what is, what our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to concentrate on, and not what culture, not what it is, what culture, or even if, higher authorities, even be it your husband, say, like, there needs to be some kind of, you have more, you have more rights toward
I'm
your parents.
recording something. I'm gonna put it over there, okay? I'm gonna put my back over
If
there.
you
I'm gonna
can
give
please
Salam to
mute yourselves. I'm going to mute everybody just a second. There you go. But so you have more rights to your parents have more rights to you than your in-laws. So don't let anybody. I want to know who. Please put it in the chat. How do you feel about that? If the women that are married, do you know that to be true? I want to know if you've known that to be true. And also, is it just to see, am I right? When we see this in our communities, once a woman is married, it's as though she's supposed to forget about her family. That's great. I love you, Chantal. Alhamdulillah. It makes perfect sense to you. Yes. But how is it played out? With in communities. Anybody else? Like, how do you see that it's I know I just feel like in the UK there is like a severe problem of like women being, I don't know, this is my idea. Like, I just feel like everybody I know is like living with their in-laws, and then they like have to have like so much, I don't know, just so much, as though the in-laws have so much right upon them. I wanted to mention this other crazy, bizarre thing that, so some of my family members, they went to visit their family in Afghanistan, and they told me some crazy, bizarre stuff that's going on, that the mother-in-laws are forcing their sons not to live with their wives, but to live with their sister-in-laws. Okay, this is the craziest, like, I want to call it like a curse word. I'm going to refrain myself. It's the craziest crap like I've ever heard. It's like, that's what it is. It's disgusting, and it's like, we need to call these things what they are. And it's just, it's disgusting. But they're forcing their sons not to live with their wives, to live with their sister-in-law, so their brother's wife. They're forcing each like son to live with not his wife, but his brother's wife. And I'm like, no, that's probably because of work. And I'm sure you got it wrong. It's not because of that. And I kept prodding, and she's like, no, 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 there is not. They're living in the same vicinity. It's just they're forcing them to live with the other family. I'm like, why? What in the world? And she's like, they don't want them to get close. They don't want their sons to get close to their wives. And I'm like, you know what it is? It's control. It's control. If they are doing that, it's control, and it is despicable. It is so disgusting. And you know what? The other thing I said, these men, they don't have the balls. The fact that they can do that and allow that to happen to their families, allow their wife to be serving. Yes, they're wearing hijab, they're wearing, but she's going to serve her husband, her husband's brother, her brother-in-law. No, we need to call this garbage out. No balls. These men do not have balls. Like what that, if you're men, if women are in that situation where your men cannot stand up to overreaching parents, stand up for yourself. Stand up for the truth. Wallahi al-azim. When you stand up to stop oppression, you will get barakah. Your whole family will reap the barakah of that when you stop oppression and intend for it to stop that oppression, because it is just incredible. I was been a Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakeel. Oh my God, that is very important to know and be able to practice. What I've seen in my culture is that the woman is seen now as belonging to her in-laws. I know, that's why I mentioned it. I appreciate your input, because I feel like I want to know if other women, if I'm not like totally out of it when I say that, right? So, and I was definitely influenced by that. Now that I am aware, I make different and better choices. You spend more time with my own parents and brother. That is so valuable, both for me and my parents, especially since my husband and I live very far away. Alhamdulillah. Spoiling my mother, always staying at her place for many years. Yeah, it's true. It's true. And I see what I really believe, that's the thing, that, there is, it's really hard when you have an empty nest. But I will say as well, that goes for your parents too. That goes for your parents to give away your daughter as well. That's hard. And it's a sunnah of life that you're going to have an empty nest. And that's why it's very important to be prepared and psych yourself out for that, and not be that person, like that kind of mother-in-law or grandmother that is always going to be dependent on your son or your daughter for company. You want to be doing things like you're giving back to the community, or you have a job, or you have a business that you love, or a hobby that you love, that is going to fulfill those things for you, so it's otherwise, yeah, you do get spoiled. You do get spoiled, and it's not your right to always have your children around. It's not. So, alhamdulillah, she's adapted to the change. Great to hear. And also the support of my husband is easier. Yeah, to rock the boat. Alhamdulillah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you tawfiq. Has to live with and serve in-laws or something. I don't know why. I hate that it like gets cut off there. Okay. Even if if her man is in a different country. No, she doesn't. No, she doesn't. That's why it's just like the ideas that women have. It's crazy. I call my family before my in-laws. That's great, because it's priority, but I'm not really in community consistently to observe this. I notice living with in-laws is common with my South Asian friends. Yeah, it is. It's like people call child worship centering the child as one main only purpose and meaning in life. Yes. And this is the thing. This is why there's so much I have to tell women, but one of the things I say, get a life. And one of the modules I have in my revival course is called The Lives of the Best of Wives, right? And the whole point, Like the punchline to that is get a life. Because the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, aside from Sayyidah Khadija, they did not have children. They did not have children, but they had fulfilling lives outside their marriage. You know, just imagine you are going to be with your husband only after once in every 9 days. Okay? You better have a life. You better have a life. And that's why these women, they were fulfilled. They were content outside. Of course, you know, when he was the Prophet ﷺ, if anybody wants to have their whole life is the Prophet ﷺ. Like the Sahaba, they want their whole life to be the Prophet ﷺ. You know what I mean? Our whole lives, my whole life is the Prophet ﷺ. That's what I want. That's what I mean, imagine his wives, right? They want to be around him all the time, but they couldn't. And they dealt with that, and they lived, and they, you know, they were fruitful, and they were beneficial, and they were happy and content, you know. And so we need to get lives outside our marriage and outside our children. Yeah, it's so true. I like that. People call it's like child worship, subhanallah. Yeah, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakeel, but it's true. I see a message that issues that come up with in accepting or normalizing painful or unpleasurable intercourse and consent. Related to what I shared about the rights of slaves, did women who were right-hand possessions or slaves have the right to sexual content? How do we free women believe that men's right to sexual fulfillment can be taken without consent? That is a very important question. It's a very strong question, and I've tried to answer that. Actually, so last week I think Zakia was there. So this first I'll talk about just a woman's right to, not a slave girl's right to consent. In terms of a woman's rights, so they don't call it in fiqh a right to consent. They don't call it that in fiqh. They consider it you know, a man's right yes. Okay, sorry, I'm getting distracted. So they call it a man's right to, you know, one of his biggest rights from the marriage is his right to intercourse. And it's not necessarily that a woman has to be in the mood, etc. But, you know, and this is why, you know, it's very important to see fiqh holistically, that this is what I mentioned, is that if a woman is constantly, so say this is his right, this is intercourse, is a man's right. Okay. And this is a question we had, I don't think in the last talk, but the talk before that. And this is why I mentioned, you know, when can a woman refuse intimacy? So if, say, you know, there's a need, a woman, it's herself, she has a need, she's really tired, or she's you know, just, let's say tired. Let's say that's something that happens often, right? She's tired and she's not in the mood, and she's, you know, she's irritable, whatever, you know, and she just doesn't want to, but her husband wants to. Okay. Now, considering it's his right, you know, she may be like, okay, yeah, all right, he needs this. Okay, let me make the sacrifice. And, you know, I'm willing to do it for his sake, and for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. Now, what happens when she keeps this trajectory? If this trajectory keeps going, what happens? If this trajectory keeps going where she's like, sacrifice, sacrifice, sacrifice. Oh, again, he wants, okay, sacrifice. Oh, I needed to do this, but I'm going to sacrifice. I needed to do this, but I'm going to sacrifice. Because remember, we're not looking at the chart here, but what I place this under, this is his need, but she also has a need, right? So they're in the same, when you are in the same plane, so X person has a need and you have a need, what happens? if there can't be any compromise, there is a clash, there must be sacrifice and there must be patience. Okay. And then you kind of have to go into the nuances of the needs, right? Now, okay, she has a need to rest. He has a need to intimacy. If she is constantly sacrificing her needs, constantly, if she's the one, what will happen to a woman who constantly does that and does not see her husband doing likewise? What's going to happen? Naturally, women, if you're, married women, 100%, this, resentment, 100%. Yeah. And resentment will shake the core of the marriage, which is not the marriage, the whole point of, saying yes to intimacy is to preserve the marriage, right? Is to preserve the marriage. This is one of the things about marriage, is to preserve the marriage. If keeping on saying yes is shaking the marriage, there is a problem with this ruling. There is a problem with saying, oh, it becomes to say that every single time it is wajib on you, because now to say yes for this woman, what it harms her. It harms her. For you know what, I shouldn't have said it that way. Resentment, yes, and it shakes it for, but even resentment for her. This is not healthy. Just for her. Forget about you see that how I'm so programmed to think also just about the marriage. Let's go take it back. Let me walk it back. The woman she doesn't have to be in that position of resentment. The Sharia protects her from that. When she is getting to the point when she feels she's going to be resentful, no, the ruling does not mean it doesn't state it is wajib for her still, even though it's going to cause her harm. Okay, so the ruling changes according to her emotional well-being, her mental well-being. Okay, I'm not going to go to the entire class I did last time, but I think it was in Balancing Life. I talked about this. Okay, so that is for a free woman. Now, for a slave girl, unfortunately, I will say unfortunately, it's something that's very difficult to, to process as women, just as a female. Forget about, a free slave, as a female, to be forced into intimacy. It's something that's very, just inhumane, right? But according to the fiqh, that is the case. That is the case that a woman, a slave girl, is not. And I will say something. Actually, I'll take it back. Forget, slave girl, free woman is actually the same in terms of the fiqh. What it says is that even if a man takes his intimacy forcefully from this woman, from his wife, he's allowed to do that, meaning rape his wife. He's allowed to do that. If a man takes his intimacy rightly from a slave girl as well, it says, the fiqh says he's allowed to do that. Now, let me tell you something. Now, a slave girl, unfortunately, she doesn't have a recourse to get out of that. A woman, unlike a free woman, if this is something that creates harm and fitna in your deen, you have a right for yourself to prevent yourself from being fitnatized. I'll say it that way. Your prerogative to yourself, to your spirituality, to your deen, to your emotional and mental health, is that you keep yourself away from fitna, right? And this is, if you saw the post I did about the Prophet ﷺ demanding Sayyidina Ali to divorce Fatima if he's going to marry Abu Jahl's daughter. Why? Because he said she will have fitna in her deen. She will have fitna in her deen. And this, if it creates fitna in your deen, like I'm assuming like, unless, there's a lot of apology and a lot of making up and, this kind of thing, which, people make mistakes, definitely, like, men, um, and if there's making up and if there's like healing, but if there's fitna in your deen, then this is something that, you can seek a divorce for, definitely. And I'm not going to say that that's an easy option, but just as we see what the Prophet ﷺ did, you can't force somebody to live in your rules if they don't want to. And, even he was the Prophet ﷺ, he did not force Sayyidina Ali. He did not force him to give up that, marriage. He didn't say you have to give up that marriage and stay married to Fatima only. You're not allowed to get married. He did not say that. He said, if you want to, you can go ahead, but divorce Fatima. That is hard. That option is hard. That's what's called a boundary. Boundaries are not easy. Boundaries are not easy. It doesn't mean it's easy. Oh, I'm going to put a boundary and I'm going to be happy and it's going to be all easy. No, it's not going to be easy. Obviously, if Sayyidina Ali, if he chose to do that, he really wants to marry this woman, he would have to divorce Fatima. It would be hard for her. That divorce would be definitely difficult. It would be hard. It would be breaking, right? But that is, you don't force someone, you don't control someone. This person keeps choosing to do this to you. Then you have this thing that, okay, I want a divorce. Because if they're not willing to comply, it's like you, that is a decision that you have to make. But you do have that, option, even though it's difficult. So yeah, with a slave woman, yeah, there is no out for that. I will say about slave women, my Sheikh Abdullah Atami, Hafidhullah, he is vehemently believes that it is not allowed. And, what I've seen from the fiqh books, generally, everybody says that, slavery is allowed. But what Sheikh Abdullah, and he has his, he has his own texts, etc. And he says one of the imams, he says one of the imams, and I see that personally in my fiqh, where he says that fiqh was catered to the shahwat of men, the shahwa of men. And just the other day, when I read something and I was like, oh my God, just like eye rolling, about men preventing their wives from waking up for tahajjud because it causes her to be less beautiful, and beauty is one of his rights. I was like, oh my God, give me a break. Are you serious? But it's really important for women to be exposed to what I'm saying right now. So, like, alhamdulillah, I got that exposure from Sheikh Abdullah, to mention things to me and to be like, oh, that's ridiculous, to mention, maybe big scholars, big ulama, big mujaddidun say things about women, but at the same time, we can still roll our eyes and say, you know what they said about women here is ridiculous. We'll take all of their other spirituality and their beautiful words. We can take that. But here, no, thank you. We're gonna go back to the Prophet ﷺ on this one here, and that's perfectly fine. So he is Sheikh Abdullah Atami, Hafidhullah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah shafahullah wa afahu wa hafidhah. He is of the opinion, very strongly, staunchly of the opinion that it is not allowed, that having slave girls and having intercourse with married slave girls, who were married, is not allowed. And he quotes Imam Al-Juwayni, not allowed meaning it was haram even in their times. That's what I mean. In general, not just in our times. Of course, in our times we don't have that, but even in general, it's not allowed to keep slave girls and have intercourse with them. he equates Imam Al-Juwayni as saying that. And he's like, he's the only Imam. And I want to say, Imam Al-Juwayni is a huge Imam. He's not a small, like, oh, just he found a scholar who agreed, like he found a scholar who would agree with me. He's a huge Imam of the Shafi'i madhab. He's an Usuli and one of the Imams of his time. So he's a huge Imam. So, you know, I, I think we can find perhaps some solace in that, that statement. But otherwise, yeah, and let me just see if I answered your question. Really, how or why do free women believe that men's right to sexual fulfillment can be taken without consent? So we believe that because, as that it is mentioned in the fiqh books that they're allowed to do this. One thing, it's very important when you study fiqh, and I didn't study this way, but that's why when you've studied for so long, you're able to get a holistic view. If you go study fiqh, Hanafi fiqh, oh, you're going to have a hard time with all the like women, especially when you get to the book of nikah and stuff like that. It's going to be like, what? But if once you study, I was blessed to study for 10 years. So it's like, my teachers didn't teach it to me this way, the way I teach it, never. But I pieced it together and I took it from different books that I've gotten, and I got that view. And it's unfortunate, alhamdulillah, that was their style of teaching. But I do, when I teach fiqh, if I'm going to teach fiqh like that, I'm going to teach it in a way to remind people that fiqh this is bare bones fiqh, is for they say it's for the bukhala. It's for those cheap people who are like you're literally in survival mode. It's people don't live like that. People don't live like with just the fiqh rights and etc. If you want to live like that with your husband or wife, you just expect to get divorced. You're not, it's to live in goodness is the sunnah. So, mashallah. I hope I answered your question there, barakallahu fikum. Anybody else? Let's see. I had another question here. No, I think a sister is just saying that it's not just a Muslim issue. My non-Muslim in-laws don't like that we live across the country. They want me in their life they don't want me in their life, just their son. Yeah, I mean, it is an in-law issue. Yeah, definitely. I just think that Muslims have this, because we honor our parents so much, that it's very easy for parents to abuse that power, because they don't know they don't have limits, because people, excuse me, their sons or whatever, they don't put any boundaries. They don't know anything about boundaries, and they don't put them down, and they've never taught to put them down. And so, ladies, if your husband does not know, you got to teach them. You got to teach them, you know? And so, that's unfortunate. That's not an uncommon feeling that they don't, your in-laws, they're just there for for your, for their son, and they don't care about you. I mean, that's unfortunate. Um, you know, uh, Yeah, so I see that. I totally understand. Yeah, you equate taking sex without consent or by force as harm. I do that too. I say, I mean, I totally see that. I mean, as a woman, definitely. It's so detrimental, it's so harmful. Technically, and do you see why Sheikh Abdullah says what he does, right? Like, I totally agree with him that it's like, in terms of with the fiqh books, the way they're written for the men. Because what we have in our fiqh books, but it's not in the same chapter. It's not in the same chapter. It is mentioned in the fiqh books that, if it harms her, or in some of the places, there is one, this place, I actually read it also last week, I think. If the intercourse harms her, he's not allowed to do intercourse when it is harmful for her. But they never mentioned it in this kind of context, and it's just like, I sometimes I think I am the first person to kind of put it together, and sometimes I feel scared, I'll be honest, and scared, or because none of my shuyukh have done it. But I remember what my coach says. She's like, if you don't do it, who else is going to do it? And I'm like, I have to do it. Yeah. And I have to, just say that, to, if a man is going to, that's why in the fiqh books, they do say that that is allowed. But if it's going to, that's why I say it the way I do. But of course, I believe it's harmful, like raping your wife, or, when she doesn't want to, that's harmful. Right. So, if that is causing harm for her, it's haram for a man to cause harm to his wife. Harm is haram, right? Bless you. So causing harm is definitely haram. So if it's, so this is the thing. I was going to say, so when there is that's why there's the hadith of, if a woman goes to, if a man goes to sleep and his wife is, and he's not pleased with what, like she hasn't fulfilled him without a reason, then the angels curse her all night. Why is that even there? Because if she hasn't given it to him, he should go to sleep. He needs to go to sleep. He doesn't force himself on her. Let the angels take care of that. If that is something that, she's preventing him unreasonably, the angels are, going to take care of that. He should just go to sleep. But it is not allowed for him to harm her in a way. And if he is harming her through, they call it their right. Yeah, unfortunately. Right. They do call it their right. And I'm, I will say I've heard my shuyukh say that. That is very disturbing. Like, and I've privately, I'm like, I'm, what is it called? I'm just fuming, like when I hear that. I think it's disgusting, but unfortunately, you know, I think if it was like put to them step by step, maybe they would admit that it's not allowed, because the pieces of the puzzle, like you have one ruling, but you have this very important ruling that you can't, you can't harm a woman. You can't cause harm to your wife. So is it allowed to do that if it's going to cause harm to to um to to the wife? And I bet you, like, I really feel like they're going to say, no, if it harms her, he shouldn't do it. I know they're going to say that because they know they're fiqh, but they still stick to that ruling. Oh, it's allowed for him to do. Oh, but what if it harms her? No, then it's not allowed. It 100% harms her, then it means it's not allowed. Do you get what I'm saying? But because they're not women, they're not gonna say, oh, it's definitely gonna harm her. So they find like this loophole to say it's not allowed. See? But yeah, if it's, the way I'm going to say it is like, if forcing oneself, on you, if a man is forcing himself on his wife and it harms her, that's not allowed. That's not allowed. Okay. And men will call it rape. They call it their right. Well, you know what? You call it hurt. You call it harm and say it's not their right. You have no right to hurt them. Okay? You call it their right. That's your right to be without being hurt, you know? How do we balance that thought of being cursed by angels? Okay, so this is I'm talking about this is when, you know, a woman like really is going to be obviously is really going to be hurt. She has a real excuse to say no, and still her husband's like, yes, you know, forcing himself. That's when, and she's gonna, you know, there that whole idea of being hurt and preventing herself from being hurt. I mean, even this discussion, this fight is difficult. You know, it's going to be cause some difficulty and emotional hardship. Um, just let him know I'm in class. He's calling me. Okay, so yeah, so it's that time. You know, see, this is the thing. It's like what, and this is another thing that I say, women, I keep on saying in the revival course, you have to, as a woman, you need to be connected. You need to be sure about yourself and have a laser sharp focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you know this is going to happen, you look at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say, I cannot do this. And then you do whatever you do whatever it takes to get yourself in an unharmful situation. You know, I just want to say an unharmful doesn't mean you're never going to have stress and never going to be sacrificed and stuff like that. But this is, I'm at a real, in a place where a woman is being just like every single time her husband is, you know, like forcing her and she doesn't, you know, say it's gotten to a point where it's just too much for her, you know? So I want to not, it's not like, oh, she's they haven't had intercourse for a week and then she's just really tired still. And you know, there's sometimes you just need to fulfill that, right, you know? So it is true, it is like I can't determine that for that woman, that when is it allowed for her to say no. I mean, it's a very personal thing. I have a question here. How do you forgive a wrong that's said and done to you, even if one doesn't forget? And that's okay. How do we not keep resentment in our heart, thinking about actions of in-laws with a different family dynamic that I am used to? I like to talk things out, but they don't, because I've never gotten to talk about these things. I feel like I'm carrying it inside. I hear you, girl. I have the same problem. I have a lot of times I have the same issue in terms of not forgetting. What helps is like visualization. What helps me, visualizations, deep breaths, whenever that thing like kind of attacks, deep breaths, and kind of, you know, it's you're really leaving their affair to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like you still try to think the best of them, because there are things, well, like you'll never know what people have gone through. You know, you never know what people have gone through. I was just thinking about that today. And I was thinking, even some, you know, my kids, when I get older, I don't know, I don't think they'll ever understand all the things that I went through, even after they were born, or things. I don't think they'll ever know that, because they were just too young. And likewise, like me, I don't think, there's some things that I'm still learning about, like my mother and father, you know, at this age. Well, my father has passed away, Allah yarhamu, 3 years, but there's still things I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. You know, so there's dynamics, what happened in their relationship when they're earlier, maybe I'll never know. And there are things that you may never know about your in-laws, or never, you know, things that happen. And I want to say that it with the best policy for like living life with other people is always to try. It's really hard, but to think of them as having been through their own badr. What do I mean? They may have done something so difficult in their lives that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so happy with that he forgave them for everything. And yes, maybe they're annoying you and they're bothering you and they're oppressing you, but maybe on the day of judgment, he will take that away from them because of this great deed they did. Just like Badr. People have their Badrs, and we don't know if they've had their Badr or not. And so that is why spiritually, we treat everybody like a wali, because we don't know if they are or not, you know? So it's good to just leave their affairs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like, definitely don't judge them. Don't be like, oh, this person's so bad and this. We don't know. I don't know. I know what they're doing. XYZ is haram. I know that's haram. But may it be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said he's going to take care of it. I don't know. And so it's not my business. It's not, that's their stuff is not my business. That's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's business. But in terms of, your thing, what they've done to you, if it's kind of something in the past that they've done and you've all moved on from it, and they're, as you said, they're not, it's to take care of yourself, mother yourself. That's why I wanted to bring these archetypes. I don't know if are you familiar with that? Like the archetype mother, the lover. Yeah, so try to embody yourself in those archetypes, and the mothering archetype. Mother yourself. Say if you had, how would your mother treat you, or how would you treat your daughter? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give righteous children. And how would you treat them? How would you mother her if she was hurt like that? And mother yourself. Take care of yourself. Do some deep breathing, do some meditation, listen to the nasheeds, dance to nasheeds. We gotta get the dancing to nasheeds back. That really changes your mood. And so try to do that, inshallah. Let's see. Especially if the women in question are their daughters. I'm not sure where that's referring to. But khair, inshallah. Do we have any more questions? I wanted to say something else. Let's see, in-laws. I think we talked a lot about in-laws already, but if there are any more questions, or let me go back to where's my tab to my questions I wanted to
I
take.
was talking about when we were discussing when the taking the sexual right by force. And so I was just commenting if the women in question were their daughters, they probably would
Oh, yes. Oh my goodness. I just
would
had this
apply it
conversation.
differently.
I just had this conversation, let's call it. Let's not call it a fight. Yesterday. I was like, the double standards between treating your own wives and the daughters. It's like, with the daughters, there's this extra like protection, extra like care, right? Definitely. I totally agree with that. That's why there's some men online. I'm like, I pray that they have daughters. And I want to say, because I know, do you see those men? Like, right? They're like saying all these things about women and learning. And I'm like, they have like 3 sons and 4 sons. They don't have any daughters. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them a daughter. I want to, because it changes. It changes you, right? Just having that. And inshallah, I hope that would change them, maybe have more empathy for those, for the women. Because the wives don't do it. It doesn't come from the wives. Mashallah. So I'm gonna just take a few questions from here. Like I have this list of questions, but these are old. But let's see. Is it okay to complain to someone about a manager who acts unfairly or rudely? A lot of times, like complaining, it you you know so it's very we have to be wary of like falling into riba, of course. But at the same time, that being said, you have to be wary about your own like emotional and spiritual state. If you're feeling like resentment towards someone, or if you're feeling a lot of hurt, sometimes that hurt can only be healed through support, and through, especially as women, that we seek support through our friends, through our sisters, through family. But it can't be like just purely something else that I have to like think about and work through, to be honest. But in terms of fiqh, like how fiqh can evolve here about about ghiba when there is like real harm. So when we speak to someone generally, when we say if you're seeking advice and nasiha about a particular situation, it's not ghiba, if you're seeking rectification. So that's important to know. Otherwise, if you're just like bad mouthing a person that you don't need to, somebody at a grocery store, you're never going to see him again. Or if it's somebody at a grocery store, you're never going to see him, and that person doesn't know who you're talking about, it's fine too. That's allowed. It's just when there's somebody specific and you both know who you're talking about, that you can't just go off on, about talking about them. It has to be specifically for healing, for rectification, for that. Okay. If you just don't take to a person for no particular reason, but that you just don't have a great feeling about them, is that considered blameworthy? No. The Prophet ﷺ said, الأرواح جنود مجندة من ائتلف منهم ائتلف, they're the souls, the spirits were like were all like gathered together in the ghaib before we came into creation. And those of them who were together at that time, they're together here. They're together. They're friendly here. But those who are far, they have a nafra, or they don't click here either. It's okay not to click with other Muslims. It's definitely okay not to click with other people. We don't have to click with everybody, right? What else? If anybody has questions online too, I'm going to take that. I have any advice on mothers who show favoritism, injustice between their children, and cause friction between the siblings? That is difficult. That's so difficult, because it becomes a fitna, right? Friction is a fitna. One of the main goals of the Sharia is to prevent fighting amongst the Muslims. That's one of the main goals. لا تدابروا وكونوا إخوانا, and that was it's a very beautiful hadith. Prophet ﷺ said, when he says, don't لا تباغضوا, don't be angry with each other, and don't turn away from each other, and be brothers in Islam, be brethren, because that one of the main things of the deen is to not, and you see, how do I know that? Because when we go to the rulings of buying and selling, that is the main rule. Any rule, any contract that has any ambiguity that will cause collision, or cause argumentation, there's another word for it, disagreement, will cause disagreement, is a fasid and haram contract to make. Okay, it's a fasid and a haram contract to make any contract. And so you apply that. It's seen in the chapters of buying and selling, but you apply that rule everywhere. And that's what I mean. That's why I mean, we take, when we see fiqh, but to use those principles in our lives, right? It is a different level, and you have to, you just have to have that familiarity with fiqh to do that. So mothers show favoritism to their sons over their daughter. That's really sad. Yeah. So if you can, advise your parents in the nicest way, in a very humble way. And the way that I say to advise a parent, what does it mean to be humble is to be childlike. How would you want like your young children to act like you? It depends on your parent, but I don't think they would not appreciate it. I think in general, if your parent is like, for example, angry at you and you say, I'm so sorry, and you generally, you're not acting, but you're really coming humbly and, but in this way too, when you have like a complaint or something that they can do better on, and you say, you know what, it's causing so much difficulty between me and causes so much difficulty between us. It's, and if you can say, it's something that it's not right. The Prophet ﷺ showed, told us to be equal. There is a hadith. I don't know if you want to mention the hadith, but it's in that spirit of really wanting something better for your parents and for your family. If you can do that, then that's great. And if they don't change, then there are things that you just have to, the world is unjust, right? The world is unfair. That's one of the things you have to kind of accept, and then those things that burn you from that, do mother yourself. Again, go back to mother yourself, go into that mode, take deep breaths, do some visualizations that clear your heart from that, and just leave that matter to Allah. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best about them in terms of spiritually their reality, the haqiqah of where they are. Maybe they're forgiven for that. So for you to hold a grudge on it is kind of pointless, and inshallah you'll be rewarded. Just remember those things, I mean, it's things where you're hurt, it doesn't go away right away, especially for women. Who's noticed that? Especially around like right before your period, right? Those things that you hurt, you remember those and they come back. They're not healed. It takes time. It takes time. It takes time. And so that's something that men don't understand about women. You got to teach them. Teach them. And we have to recognize that about ourselves too. So, yeah, it is something you want to get to a place where you're free from that. Trauma with own families is real, caused by parents. Yeah, that's very sad when it's like your parents are the ones that are inflicting the trauma. You need space from that. You need healing. There are other methods. There are coaches out there. I would say if you have some real trauma there, look into that. I was just thinking about that yesterday, how there was I did a coaching with this lady once. She coached me where she told me to go back to the first time that I ever felt really hurt. And I remember that as a child. And basically what I felt, she told me to remember those feelings that I had at that time. And they were the same issues I have now. I was blown away. I was like, wow. But it was like, those childhood wounds, there's like some real stuff in there. And so we did like breathing and stuff like that to get rid of that past. and to it's about letting go of the past, and then you heal yourself now. So that's something you can look into. I really recommend. I mean, I'm so a proponent of coaching because I say it changed my life. If you have real like wounds and things like that you need to take care of, get a coach to help you if you can, to heal those things. Like, it takes time, and it takes like care for yourself in that, inshallah. So I'm going to stop here, inshallah, and I'm going to say, inshallah, where I'm going to start with revival course tomorrow. There's going to be a lot of this there in that, and a lot of, inshallah, hopefully a lot of coaching too. And it's just, I'm hoping, sometimes I'm scared that 6 months isn't enough, but I'm just hoping to bring it all together, like all these things that I do piecemeal. It's just going to be a regular something, and it hopefully it will be transformative to a lot of the women out there, inshallah. If you can join me, that's for the revival course there, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept and from us. وجزا الله عنا سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ما هو أهله. وجزا الله عنا سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ما هو أهله. جزا الله عنا سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ما هو أهله. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام تباركت ربنا وتعاليت يا ذي الجلال والإكرام. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وسلم. اغفر لنا وارحمنا وعافنا واعف عنا يا رب يا رب. We ask you يا رب العالمين that our brothers and sisters in Gaza have been suffering for an entire year now, Ya Rab. And Gaza, Palestine, Lebanon, and all over the world, Ya Rab, we ask you to give them relief. Give them relief, let them not suffer a day longer, Ya Rab al-Alameen. Take care of them, Ya Rab. Ya Rab, take care of them, Ya Rab al-Alameen. Hold them in your hands, Ya Rab al-Alameen. Envelop them in your care, in your inayah, in your lutf. Envelop them in your lutf. Ya salam, Ya salam. Put peace in their hearts. Even if there's war all around them, Ya Rab al-Alameen. You are peace, and from you is peace, Ya Rab. Give peace in their hearts. Give peace in their homes. Give peace in their families, Ya Rab al-Alameen. Give them victory. Make us people who are worthy for your victory. Make us people who are revive the sunnah of your Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in ourselves, in our families, in our homes, in our communities. Make us worthy of your victory. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept us. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.